Does this car look familiar to you? Well, it certainly doesn't look familiar to me, and there's a genuine reason for that. And that's because it's an all-new product for a brand that's looking to make a return to Australia after an 8-year gap. This is the Chery Omoda 5, a Chinese-built medium SUV that looks to offer sharp pricing to punters shopping on a budget. On first glances, it looks really compelling, but is it good to drive? So what are we going to do today? Well, we've got this car for a single-day launch alone, so we're going to take it for a drive. We're going to have a poke about the cabin. I'll tell you everything you need to know about this cut-price small SUV. Let's go. The Chery Omoda 5 will eventually arrive in Australia as a 4-car model range. However, for now, there are just 2 models on offer. The entry-level Chery Omoda 5 BX and our test car, the mid-spec Omoda 5 EX. Whereas the entry-level Omoda 5 BX is priced from just $31,990 drive away, this EX model that we're testing today costs a few grand more and starts from around $35,190 drive away. Please note that these starting prices do vary as the brand charges anywhere from $300 to $900 more depending on the state or locale that you register the car in. Before we jump in the cabin, it's worth discovering what's under the bonnet of this thing. What we have here is a 1.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with 115 kilowatts of power, 230 newton meters of torque, and a constantly variable automatic transmission. 2 other questions you probably have are servicing and warranty. We'll start with servicing first. Chery is looking towards Toyota to benchmark its servicing pricing. That means we're expecting this car to cost around $250 to $300 annually, or every 10,000 Ks, whichever comes first. Another thing great too is this car is covered by a 7-year warranty. It's great to see a challenger brand offering good after-sales service in Australia. Jumping behind the wheel of the Chery Omoda 5 actually surprised me at first. It looks really nice in here, and it's built out of nice materials. You've got this simple vinyl and bronze highlights here, which I think look quite good. You've got a different material that looks high-end on the center console, and you've even got a cool wireless charger that reminds me of a Tesla. How good is that? In terms of things I don't like, this infotainment system does have its problems. We've got 2 10.25-inch infotainment screens in this car, one for the driver that works well, and one for the infotainment system that doesn't work so well. It's a little bit laggy, it's a little bit glitchy, and when you use Apple CarPlay, the transitions aren't nice, and look, it does need more processing power to be in line with others in the class. Something else I find a bit funny too is this touch-sensitive buttons on the dash. They're a bit fiddly to use, they get covered in fingerprints, and it's quite annoying to be honest. Also too, the climate controls in the screen, meaning there's no tactile buttons. And something else too is this camera in front of the driver. What it does is it monitors your eyes and lets you know if you take your eyes off the road. Now, if you use the infotainment or talk to your son in the back for 2 seconds, the car will bing and bong at you and say you're distracted when you're probably not. Again, this car needs a bit more calibration to be in line with mainstream cars, but overall, it's about 90% there. It's worth noting that Chery has said the Omoda 5 base model will start from sub $40,000, but this car isn't the base model, it's the EX trim, which is one above base. That means it gets a few extra things for the money, like a Sony premium stereo, heated faux leather seats, and an opening sunroof as well, which are extras above the base model. Over in the second row, space is okay for what is a mid-size SUV. I'm reasonably comfortable here, but the seat bench is a little bit annoying. It's a bit flat, and it doesn't cater for people with long legs, meaning your thighs are unsupported, so I'd probably maybe get a little bit uncomfortable here, but overall, I feel okay at the moment. In terms of space, look, I can't put my feet out in front of me. Bit annoying, my knees are quite close to the seat back, and the sunroof bulkhead does impede in my headroom. Overall, it's not bad in here, but mainstream cars do it a bit better. In terms of other features, we've got a pair of air vents, a USB port, and some cup holders and ISOFIX points too for child seats. Look, it's not the most spacious second row, but it's fair considering the money. Boot space comes in at around 290 litres. However, we are waiting for official confirmation on its size from Chery. Anecdotally, however, it isn't the biggest boot, but it's decent enough for a small family, and there also happens to be a space-saving spare wheel under the boot floor and no repair kit, which is a thumbs up from me. I'm always really interested to drive cars from emerging brands. It's always good to pick apart a car and see what's good and what's not good. So with this car, we'll start with the ride and handling. Overall, it's pretty inherently solid. I took this car for a great drive in and around town in 50 kilometre zones, right out to the Southern Highlands district of New South Wales, where the roads are fast and flowing, and it felt good out there too. It is a bit firm and gets a bit bumpy, like that speed bump may show you may hear, but overall you'd rather a firm car than a floppy one. It's better to have a car you can be in control of than a car that's a bit all over the shop. So to be honest, it's the lesser of two evils, but it is a little bit firm for the money. Something else worth noticing too is the NVH or noise levels in this car. Around 50 k's an hour, quiet enough, but when you get up to speed on a motorway, it does get a bit loud. So this car could deal with a bit more sound insulation material. Under the bonnet, we've got that 1.5 litre turbocharged engine and CVT transmission, which both do the job just fine. You put your foot down, it responds well and accelerates quite quickly. These Gitty tyres do lack some traction in the wet, but in the dry they're fine, something to note. And yeah, something else about this car that I don't like is the steering. You find that when you turn it off centre about 45 degrees, it's a bit light and washy, and then it loads up a bit interestingly after that. It's not the best steering, it's a little bit disconcerting to use to begin with, but you do get used to driving it. However, there are other car brands that do that a lot better. Something else too that needs fixing in this car are the driver assist systems, particularly the lane keeping assist. It's a bit aggressive when it pings you back into the lane if you veer off course. And when you're doing 110 k's an hour on a motorway, it can be a little bit disconcerting then as well when the steering starts to get a bit aggressive and pong you around the lane. Again, this is a calibration issue. The car is 90% there, it's missing that 10% of extra calibration efforts that you get with brands from Toyota and Mazda. But then again, this car is cheaper, so it's pay to play, I guess. Overall, I've been pretty impressed with the Chery Omoda 5. Aside from some calibration issues with the ADAS systems, the throttle pedal and the steering, the overall car itself is pretty darn good. It's safe, it's easy to drive, it manages rural conditions well, it manages around town well, and to be honest, for a return effort from an emerging car brand, it's actually not too bad. So what do we think of the Chery Omoda 5? Well, this has been a quick drive over one day, so we can only tell you so much, but I reckon there's a pretty decent car underneath here. The suspension is fair, the ride and handling is good, but all of that is a little bit spoiled by some calibration issues in the cabin. The throttle pedal needs a bit of work, the steering isn't perfect, and to be honest, the driver assist systems can be borderline annoying and you've got to turn them off every time you drive the car. But aside from those things, there's a lot of good car here, and as the brand evolves, I'm sure it's going to get better and better as the years go on. We're really looking forward to spending more time with this car and comparing it to other more expensive cars in the class to see if it stands up against the competition. Make sure you go to Drive.com.au to read the full written review on the Chery Omoda 5. And as usual, like and subscribe to our channel to be kept up to date with the latest and greatest car content from Drive.